So Justin coming out, our questions on Justin were the in-game processing, playing a little bit too methodical, and making quick decisions when it was in the gray, when it was a little bit off script, things that you have to be able to do consistently in our league. Those were the questions going into the spring. Now you spent a lot of time interviewing the player. You spent a lot of time interviewing the head coach at Ohio State and the supporting staff at Ohio State.
And how about all the testing, right?
And now the testing. We were big S2 believers.
So, and is that the test where
That's
he
the
did
test
better?
that he aced, right?
He did better than anybody ever on that test.
He tested really well on that test. It was not the best ever.
Okay.
It wasn't even the best in that class.
Okay.
He was above that number where we felt these guys that are hitting right now are all testing. In that specific test, it's above 87, 88. He was 92, I believe. Fluid intelligence processing, that's what that measures. That helped us have conviction that it was going to improve, because when you're playing at Ohio State and the talent you're playing with versus defenses,
you got the best line, you got the best receivers, and you're playing against Northwestern.
Two or three times a year, you're playing legit teams, Bama, Clemson, Michigan. But for the most part, you're playing against guys that aren't going to be playing on Sundays. You can afford to be methodical. And so will it speed up? We felt it would, based on everything I just mentioned. And he has a get out of jail free card built in on every play with his legs. We thought that would help carry him to get to his 10,000 hours in the league and become a master at his craft. And guys that have that luxury can buy a lot of time because they can steal first downs. They can create explosive plays, with the ball in their hands. That was the vision for the player. We got to work with him for a year. I would have said, even watching tape going into this season, you still see some of that stuff, but it's improving. And as you build it around him, protection-wise and explosive players, I was confident that he was going to have a productive year. Could I say he's going to be a top 5 guy, he's going to win you a Super Bowl? I couldn't say that based on the first 2. But I was confident it was going to look better and it was going to be productive this year. So it's been a surprise to see it as bad as it is right now.
This is
God, I've got
interesting.
100 questions.
I know,
for
right?
you.
This is fascinating what we're learning about QB evaluation. Like, they thought the legs would buy him enough starts that he would learn what's so difficult to learn.
But so now that Poles is here, do you think it's a real thing? He's not my guy? Because Mitch got 50 starts across multiple regimes. Justin's at 28. There's 14 games to go. That would be 42 career starts. I think most people would say that's enough time. He's playing for his job this year with Ryan Poles?
100%. And it's not his guy. And that is a real thing. I think
even though he chose to make him his guy this year. I mean, he had the number one. He could have taken Stroud. He could have taken Bryce Young.
100%. It showed some buy-in. And I can't speak to what the support level around the quarterback in that building is right now. I can't speak to that. But it's a real thing. There's egos involved. You want it to be your guy. And if you see chinks in the armor, if you see some cracks, it's a lot easier to say, we didn't draft this guy. I want to swing with my guy. That's a real thing. To pretend like it's not is insane.
Well, because he's not stapled to him in terms of his reputation. Ryan Pace and you guys were stapled to Fields, especially, after Mitch did not do his thing. We thought that you were stapled to Mitch, that Mitch's failure would mean Ryan Pace's failure. Did you guys think that, by the way?
I thought because of the success we had in 2018 and what we did on on the defensive side of the ball, I really thought we would win enough games to bridge to the next guy. Once we made the decision that Mitch wasn't going to be in the long-term plans, now it's continue to build the roster, start planning long-term. We knew we had 2 things coming in front of us. We had who's the next quarterback, and the defense is going to have a major overhaul in the front 7. So that was the preparation.
Yeah, nothing other than that.
Probably
Just replacing the best defense this town had seen in a decade and finding a franchise quarterback that they've never seen.
But what's interesting, because like we couldn't think of another GM who got to trade up and go get 2 quarterbacks. That's pretty rare. Did you guys know that was a rare opportunity you were being given?
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, there's definitely been GMs that have had chance to take 2 quarterbacks. I believe Arizona was kind of simultaneous with us in that same boat. We obviously were tremendously grateful for the opportunity. We knew how far we could go up in that draft to get a quarterback.
Where was Justin ranked?
In our quarterback list?
Yeah,
I'm going to talk personnel.
Of those 5.
I'm going to talk personnel because coaches and personnel were a little bit split, and I don't want to speak for the coaches. Personnel, second, behind Trevor.
So you had Trevor, Justin, Mac, Wilson, Lance.
Okay. With not enough love and conviction in the building on the coach or personnel side to make Trey Lance or BYU
or Wilson
to make them a first-round selection. There was not enough buy-in in our building on either of those.
But you would have drafted Mac.
Yes, that was a decision that came literally up to the final, like,
because they were both on the board.
Both on the board.
Mac goes 15, Fields goes 11. You trade up to 11 for Fields. There are people in the building saying take Mac.
Not take Mac. I knew this prior to the first round starting. Ryan always liked to do it'd be me, Coach Nagy, Champ Kelly. I believe Jeff King was in there, Mark Sadowski. All right, write down on a piece of paper who we're taking. Because when you're picking where we were picking, with all the
20, right?
Yeah, ammunition to go up, and what if the quarterbacks go and we stay put at 20? We really liked Darrisaw a lot. Darrisaw was kind of the guy we envisioned. If we didn't get a quarterback, we were going to get Darrisaw. I wrote down Mac Jones. I thought we'd have enough ammunition to go up and get a quarterback in that 10 to 15 spot, and he'd be the only one left. I thought.
Oh, you thought Fields would be off the board?
Yeah, because we knew the 3 at that point. We knew they were going, and to me,
you knew that Lance and Wilson were going ahead of Fields.
We knew Wilson was going to the Jets in March. I was at Trey Lance's pro day. I was at Trey Lance's pro day with Matt and Ryan, and Joe Douglas was there, who worked for us. And Ryan was just kind of teasing with me, I wonder why he's here. Like, that's already a done deal. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's a done deal. So like that, they through agents and everything else. Were you
shocked at the Lance trade?
I was surprised that they went up that high to take him over Justin. I really was. Now, I don't have any room to talk. We took Mitch over Mahomes. Like, guys,
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to
that in the next segment.
I'm not taking shots at anyone. I just thought, based on the limited resume, the lower level of competition, both scored very high on their S2. Both are outstanding people with outstanding makeup. Mm-hmm. But I just thought Justin, with the pedigree coming from where he's coming from, would go before Trey. Once those 3 were established as those top 3 or 4 picks, I didn't think Justin would get past Denver and Carolina.
And looking back, do you think Justin was damaged by being thrust into the starting role once Dalton got hurt? That game plan against Cleveland, with all of that went on, it was a crazy confluence of things. He didn't really get to play in the preseason. Then all of a sudden, there he is. Do you think he was damaged by that year under Matt?
So to answer that question, 2 ways. Both quarterbacks we took did not have the ideal length of resume in college football. Both Mitch and Justin. Mitch was a 1-year starter.
Justin played a lot in college.
Justin was a 2-year starter. You go back.
That's not enough.
It's not enough. Those reps are invaluable. I think why you're seeing so many guys miss right now. There's so many quarterback misses in the first round.
Oh, man.
A lot of that is lack. It's not all of it. A lot of it is lack of college reps. It's a big thing. It's a real thing. You get a guy like Purdy, like that. It's real. Like, he's got so much time on task. It really, really helps. My point being, both our guys had limited resumes. We did not want to play either one of them year 1. We did not want to play either one of those 2 quarterbacks in the first year.
Right. They really believed that Glennon would be fine.
Just get through the year. Andy, get through the year. I think Andy would have got through the year if he would have been more healthy, if he didn't have the injury against Cincinnati. I'm watching Jordan Love right now. Sitting for that long, especially if you get to sit behind someone that knows how to do it, is huge.
So
to answer your question really quick, I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That
Was he
type
damaged
of,
by
that
the year?
type of game?
Yeah.
I don't want to say the year. That type of game
being thrust in.
can have permanent damage. Like that type of game, that was hard to watch. He took a lot of free hits that game. When you're asking a player to be poised and confident in the pocket and to trust your protection, you can't see downfield and process if you don't trust your protection. And when that's your first NFL start, and you're yelling at a guy, you're not yelling, but you want this guy to grow in trust and protection, it's hard. I'm not saying it damaged him permanently. It definitely didn't help.
What was it like afterwards?
That game?
Yeah, like the hours after that game.
That was one of the harder ones.
Like, does anyone yell at Nagy? Like, I would imagine there's a confrontation, like, because he played Andy Dalton's game plan, but had Justin Fields out there.
How do you leave Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney single blocked?
Yeah, it was. I don't remember any confrontations. Just sitting in that press box, having been through what we just went through with Mitch, wanting this guy to succeed more than anything. It was hard.
You said your grades on Deshaun Watson were not anywhere near high enough to put him in the same grouping with Mitch and Mahomes. And I will be honest with you, this always was like a personal thing for me. And it's aged horribly now with what we know about Deshaun Watson. But I mean, at the time, this is a multi-year starter, big level college football, played Bama twice in the championship game, beat him once, should have beat him twice. Nick Saban needed to do an onside kick to keep the ball out of his hands. I mean, he got first college football player ever to have 4,000 passing, 1,000 rushing. I mean, this is literally one of the best college football players of the last quarter century. And then you've got a guy in Texas Tech, in Mahomes, Big 12 quarterbacks had never been successful in the NFL. And you've got Mitch Trubisky, a one-year starter at North Carolina who didn't put up anywhere near the production that Watson did. You just talked about how Mitch and Fields didn't have enough of a body of work in college. No one had a bigger body of work than Deshaun Watson.
He's been waiting to ask this.
I've never understood how he doesn't even get the 5-hour interview that you gave to the other guys, right? You took Mitch out to dinner. He said he was James McMahon at the restaurant. You guys went down and you did the private workout with Mahomes. I never understood how he wasn't even in the group of three.
For sure. That's obviously an extremely valid question. You know, the grades obviously start coming in the fall. The majority of the grades on the player were in the second round. I think we had one first-round grade on Deshaun Watson from a coach. And even in that grade from a coach, there was no conviction or passion. Deshaun Watson, for me, I'll just talk about my experience evaluating the player. He's made a living in the NFL in off-script playmaking. It's remarkable how talented he is making plays off-script. That's how he played in Clemson. Remarkable. I didn't think he would be able to do it consistently in the NFL. The ability to play from the pocket and process and deliver balls accurately, on time, anticipate throws. That's why I think throughout the league, grades were lower on Deshaun Watson. Can he do what he does on a college field off script consistently through a 16, now 17-game season in the NFL? For me, I didn't think it was transferable, as translatable. I thought he would be able to do it at times, but it wouldn't lead to consistent high-level NFL quarterbacking.
But what you said that Fields had that skill that was going to buy him time to learn. Did you also not believe that Deshaun, because of testing and other things, had the capacity to learn it?
So as far as just like cerebral learning, they were both fine. This is more throwing from the pocket, anticipating accuracy. He was not an accurate quarterback at Clemson. I mean, you could probably pull up some stat that says he's 71% completion percentage,
which I would.
But that's college. Like, that's college football. They all throw a high completion percentage. It's a different game. It's a different throw. It's a lot easier, simpler as far as completion percentages go. So that was, I'm just telling you that's what it was. And so for us, it was those other two guys who we thought projected better from the pocket in our league. And I'll be honest with you, I had the same problem with Patrick. I did not think some of the crazy stuff he can do off script would translate to consistent NFL production.
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes.
It's so hard to evaluate quarterbacks.
He's the best quarterback I've ever seen play in the NFL. He is incredible. I watch it. The first thing I do when I get my tape on Monday morning is watch Kansas City. Huh. It's magic. He's a unicorn. It's different. Like, you can rank the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. There's a big space between 1 and 2. He's incredible.
Okay. Were you at the meeting? Were you at the dinner with Mitch?
Yes.
In North Carolina?
Yes.
So you're at the table in the steakhouse? Okay.
The Camry, you saw the Camry in the parking lot?
So you saw this amazing old school Camry that Ryan Pace apparently fell in love with? Okay, so this is what I don't understand. I've talked to Mitch twice, maybe, for 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? I've never interviewed Pat Mahomes, but I've obviously watched tons of it. I don't get it. I don't get how you could sit in a room with Mitch for 5 hours and with Mahomes for 5 hours. Like, one of them just so very clearly seems, I'm sorry to say, like, smarter. Like, the processing side of it. Like, it feels, why is it so hard to evaluate, like, who can process this stuff and who can't?
You're talking about crystallized intelligence, like study for a test, read, regurgitate, remember, figure out calculus. That has nothing to do with football. You're looking for fluid, functional intelligence.
I don't know. You don't think that, like, being told the plays and being able to regurgitate it back up on the board and all that?
Mitch can come to a pregame, night before a game on Saturday night with Mitch on the board. He'll blow you away.
So does he just lose himself a little bit in game day?
It's fluid intelligence. As soon as the bullets start flying, that kind of intelligence is completely different than regurgitating all your plays, all your checks. If you get this hot read, he'll kill that stuff all day.
That's the stuff you can't scout for some reason.
It's hard. That's why the S2 test has become so in vogue with NFL scouts. It started right around that time. 16, 17 were the first years, but no one trusted it. It took 5-6 years of data before you could trust it.
Was there any hint of Deshaun's massage activity or anything like that in his character from college?
All 3 of those guys had pristine character from everything we gathered. If you're just talking about those 2 dinners, Mitch was very calm, cool, relaxed, very just kind of almost like, I don't want to say frat boy, but had a little frat boy to him a little bit. Patrick was very high energy, anxious. So, like, Patrick had a hard time in those settings coming out of college because he was so nervous and so jittery. So, but the bottom line is we don't base anything off of those dinners, like, unless there's something that's just a huge outlier. Like, you're going
like a Camry.
You're going off of film, pro day, measurables, testing, interviewing coach, all that stuff. Like, the dinners are important, obviously. They both did great at the dinner. There wasn't like, we didn't get in the car and we're like, oh my God, we're taking this guy because he just, like, see the way he ate his steak? Like,
with ketchup, right?
But it did seem like that you guys differentiated the two, though, because you traded up from 3 to 2.
Oh, absolutely.
You were not happy with getting Pat Mahomes. You had a right? You were not willing to stay at 3, have Mitch go 2, and have to settle for Pat Mahomes.
I don't know if that's true at all. That would be an inaccurate statement. We were good with both those quarterbacks. We obviously liked Mitch better than Pat. That's why we took him.
But then why trade up from 3 to 2?
That gets into a whole nother conversation of why would you go from 3 to 2?
Which I defended the day after the draft.
The only reason you go to 3 to 2 is for one reason. You think somebody's coming up ahead to take the player that you want.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We had information Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
We- somebody jumped up.
You would have not been okay with someone going from 5 or 4 or 7
You're
or wherever.
taking a quarterback in the first round and you have conviction on him. You're going to go take that guy.
So once you've decided that's your guy.
Yeah, we're going to take Mitch Trubisky.
So did John Lynch play you guys? Like
I don't think John Lynch had anything to do with it. There was information coming from other people that gave us the reason to believe that he was going to be selected at 2 by another team.
Oh, and it was because
that Mitch was going to be selected.
Yes, because the theoretical wisdom out there is that the Niners got Ryan Pace, that they suckered him into thinking that they had somebody who was going to take Mitch.
That's not true.
And I, for the record, the day after the draft, I remember doing the show with you.
Absolutely.
I had no problem with trading up from 3 to 2. I looked at it as like insurance on a Lamborghini. Like, if you've got conviction on a franchise quarterback, you're going to pay for insurance to move on. So I had no problem with it.
We just took the wrong guy.
You just took the wrong guy. I still don't get, though, like, okay, so you had the bad grade. Did you guys not think Deshaun was going to be drafted in the first round? Like, I know you didn't.
No. We thought he'd go in the first round.
So then why not spend the day? Why not spend the 5 hours?
He told you.
No. But
we weren't going to take him.
But opposition research. He's good. What if he goes to the Lions? What if he goes to the Vikings? What if he goes to a team that you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if the guy's going to be starting in the NFL at quarterback, working him out, meeting him, you might learn something that goes into the game plan when you have to play against him.
We'd spent time with him at the combine. We had individual time with him. We had plenty of time with him. We knew we weren't going to take the player.
So it's
like,
a waste. It's looked at as a waste of time.
Why waste his time? Why waste our time?
And
we wanted him to come to that dinner that night. We wanted him to come. He decided not to come.
At the combine dinner.
No. At Clemson when we went to his pro day.
You wanted to have a one-on-one dinner with Deshaun at his pro day.
He did not come. He had other people scheduled ahead of us. Whatever it was, we ended up having dinner with a couple other Clemson guys. I think we wanted him to come in the group. Look, we weren't taking him.
Yeah.
And if you remember the whole scenario going into this thing was we weren't taking a quarterback. That was the scenario. We weren't taking a quarterback. We didn't want people to think we were taking a quarterback.
Yeah,
there's a method to the madness. Like, we weren't trying to like tip people off that we were taking a quarterback for sure.
Did you guys ever tell Pat Mahomes that he was going to get picked by you? Because we have Patrick Mahomes Sr. We talked to Pat Mahomes Sr. and he told us this.
They told him that they were going to draft him. They told him that they were going to draft him. So we thought he was going to be the 3rd pick overall, go to Chicago. He had a great meeting when he went there and liked all the guys that were doing the stuff there, and he thought he was going to be a Bear. And then once they traded up and got Mitch, it kind of hurt him. I mean, it really did. But he always knew that Kansas City had told him that, they were going to come up and get him. They just didn't know how far they had to go. But initially, he thought he was going to be a Chicago Bear.
Is that true?
So going specifically that we were going to take him, I cannot speak for Ryan. I don't want to speak for him. I don't believe he was ever told we were going to take him at 3. Going in up until 24 hours before the draft, we did not know who Cleveland was taking. We knew it was going to be Mitch or Myles Garrett. We knew that information. They made their final decision. From what I was told, the coaches wanted Garrett, the personnel people wanted Mitch. They decided to take Myles Garrett. From that point on, we knew we were going to get Mitch, whether it was at 3 or 2. Prior to 24 hours before the draft, we knew there was a scenario where we would take Patrick Mahomes.
Man, if Cleveland took Mitch, we end up with Patrick Mahomes.
So the scenario was, who do you take at 3? Do you take a position player? Do you take Patrick? Or do you try to trade back knowing Patrick probably won't go in the top 10? That was the scenario.
Do you think Mahomes is Mahomes if he's a Bear?
Yes. To that level, 2 Super Bowls, I can't say that. He is transcendent.
You don't think he would have been ruined by being here?
No, there's to me, there's 5, 6 quarterbacks in the NFL right now where you can drop them into all 32 buckets and they'll produce high-end offense. He's one of those guys. He's the best of those guys.
All right, so then the inverse. What if the Chiefs had drafted Mitch?
I think it would have been better for Mitch. More established identity on offense.
He gets to sit behind Alex Smith. He gets Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Andy Reid.
I think it would have benefited him greatly. It would have added some more production to his career. But the things he's missing are still going to be missing, and they're going to put a cap on his ceiling in the NFL.
That fluid intelligence or the anxiety that comes when the bullets are flying would have reared its head.
He still would have had issues with that. He would have had more success without a doubt, but it still would be capped.
When you guys drafted Mitch and signed Glennon and had John Fox and Dowell Loggins running the show, and it's Marcus Wheaton and Josh Bellamy and like that collection of characters, my theory at the time was that Pace knew Pace wanted Mitch to sit because he knew that that wasn't going to be the coaching infrastructure that was going to develop Mitch.
We wanted Mitch to sit because he needed to sit.
But were you going to always fire Fox and Dowell Loggins and bring in a more modern offense to develop your quarterback, regardless of how that year goes?
I can't say that. If that year would have went, in a way, especially offensively, because he's getting to work with the players rookie year. So you got to get a feel for that relationship, what obviously that coordinator thinks of the player. Mm-hmm. Dow desperately obviously wanted to stay and work with Mitch. They had a very good relationship. But I can't say like the year before when we took him that was the plan, that we were going to fire this head coach. Obviously, with the lack of success we were having, that's a possibility. But like without, there's no way that like we selected Mitch and said this guy's not going to be his coordinator. This guy's not going to be his head coach. That never happened.
Okay.
This is gold to be able to ask about all this.
Yeah, I literally could talk to you for hours.
Were you guys aware of the Mitch album? Did you know that there was an album of parody songs about Mitch Trubisky?
I was not.
Okay,
that's too bad.
Damn it.
That's too bad.
I was told the day I got hired by the Chicago Bears, we're going to support you and give you everything you need to win games, and do not listen to local media.
Who told you that? Who told you that?
Scott Hagel.
Don't listen to Chicago media. Oh, man. Well,
should we cancel Grody? And I just grill this guy for another hour for gems like that? That's beautiful. That doesn't surprise me at all that Hagel would say that. All right. You said the S2 test. Are you surprised that Fields' post-snap processing isn't better? And why haven't we figured out a way? Because why haven't we figured out a way to evaluate that?
Yeah, I would say that I definitely thought he'd be further in his career. It was definitely a thing we talked about a lot. The testing has been extremely accurate.
It has?
The S2 testing has been really accurate. Not perfect. There's outliers and everything.
Is Justin looking like he's going to be a negative outlier then?
There has that potential if he doesn't start to see the field quicker and work in rhythm and timing with the offense. Here's the one thing I've said it for the last few weeks. I don't care who you are playing quarterback in the NFL. If you're not confident, you got no shot. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why he's starting the season with a lack of confidence. It screams out on the All-22 tape. From the Green Bay game to Tampa to Kansas City. I want to see him. I went back and watched the Pittsburgh game from 2021, Monday Night Football. That's a different player out there. I'm telling you, that's a different person wearing that helmet with the swag and the way he's moving around versus the guy I'm seeing right now.
Is it pressure he's putting on himself because they have all the pieces now? Is it the volume of information that's making this happen?
It's a hard city to play quarterback in. I don't know all the answers. I've seen what the weight of the pressure can do to two different quarterbacks now. Can't say that's it. Obviously, there's talent, ability issues that go along with it, but it's real.